Are you tired of pulling a giant 400-page book off the shelf to page through and learn how to play a specific TTRPG? Sick of the hassle of explaining rule after rule after rule? Wouldn't it be nice to have something that is compact, easy to read, easy to play, and fun? Well, we're about to speed through two completely different games right now on this episode. Welcome to Rules Ultralights.
Every day, dice roll, quick adventure calls, walking through tabletops, golden halls. Masters of pen and paper, RPGs of every flavor, talking about different creators. The choice of games is never greater. Come with us to games they run through, new, old, and interesting.
Hey, welcome in Masters of Pen and Paper, episode 14. You have me, Finny, hosting here, as well as my good man here,
DG. How you doing? Episode 14, man. I am ready to go. So we were talking last episode about the Rules Ultralights, and you were like, if you want to see a Rules Ultralight, I have a Rules Ultralight for you.
Yeah, and like we're talking like ultra light. Like this you print this off, it is one sheet of paper. We're going through two games today, both of which are a single page. One of them is technically three, but we'll get into that. I mean, but rules wise, one page each. So if you want to talk about sit down, shut up, and play, this is how we get it done. Yeah, and simple. Very simple games to actually sit down, read through it. It takes like 3 minutes to read through the page, and you're off playing. We're gonna have a lot of fun today.
This is gonna be great. So the first game we're starting with is a game called World of Dungeons, and why don't you bring us in? Tell us all about World of Dungeons, which looks like old school D&D. I'll just tell you from a visual point of view, it's got that font. You know that font?
It's got that
font.
It's got that funk to it, yeah. I don't know if it was actually a hack or a toned down version of another game, possibly Dungeon World. I hear it had been kind of sussed around like that, but this is created by John Harper and C. McDowell. Now, this is not this Chris McDowell from last episode Into the Odd, as far as I can tell. This is McDowell with a E-L-L instead of a A-L-L.
That's right, yeah.
And I don't believe he's from over the water, but who knows?
It does go to say that all McDowells make great games. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to throw that out.
Now, C. McDowell, I had no luck in finding anything about this guy. I could not find a single thing about this guy other than that He's was credited on World of Dungeons. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
John Harper, on the other hand, is a very established game designer and also graphic artist.
Right.
He is best known for creating the games Blades in the Dark, spoiler alert, episode incoming, as well as Lady Blackbird, which is also episode incoming.
Nice.
As well as being the graphic designer for Fiasco. Now, if you haven't heard of Fiasco, it's a fairly popular
it's up there. It's up there.
Game. Yep. Yeah. Anyways, he was the graphic designer behind that, which is really cool. I did not know that he did that.
Very, very heavy gaming resume. Like this guy's coming to the table with some skill.
He's got quite the repertoire.
Yeah, yeah.
He released World of Dungeons in 2012, I believe, and it is free for download. A quick Google search will give its World of Dungeons, and that'll bring you to his page or a page with a download, and you will know it's World of Dungeons because it's 3 pages long.
That's right.
All of 96 kilobytes or something like that.
And we'll throw a link in the description. You'll be able to find it there as well. But you'll see it right away. It says World of Dungeons, and like I said earlier, it's got that font, the OG Dungeons and Dragons font, right? Like it almost looks like a circus font, right? Like
it does.
It's really.
It's got that weird sharp bubbled letters.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just when you see it, you know it's D&D. Like you can see it right there. But.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is, and I don't know if this is maybe just a design thing of his, but World of Dungeons actually, where it's at the bottom of it, it's got the credits going to who designed it, but it's also copyrighted 1979.
I saw that as well, and I was actually going to ask.
Don't know if he released it in 1979. He could have. I don't know.
It's possible, because it's got his
flavor.
name there. Yeah, it's World of Dungeons, copyright 1979 by J.S. Harper with C. McDowell, 1 and 7 Tactical Design Institute, Seattle, Washington. So it's entirely possible this is from way back then. It's hard to tell, especially with these little games, right? It's hard to tell because there's really not a whole lot of information out there because they're just so tiny, right? So you can find out a little bit, but
I will also say that John Harper is the sole person behind 1-7 Studios. Mm-hmm. So he is 1-7 Studios, and that's all you get out of it.
That's right.
You don't get a large bio of him and what he's done.
No enormous Wikipedia.
No,
this isn't TSR we're talking about.
Exactly. There's not a wiki after wiki page of info on this guy.
Exactly. So even though we only have 3 pages, it would do us well to take a peek under the hood here and take a look. And the 3 pages in questions. The first page is a character sheet, which is it's actually 2 character sheets.
It's 2 character
on
sheets,
one page.
Yeah.
Because they're not very large. They're not in depth. The last page is XP and names.
It's got a name table and an XP table graph.
And then page 2 is where you'll find the rules and the guts of the game. And so, this gives new meaning. This isn't ultra light anymore. This is like paper thin. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Like micro light.
Micro game. Like for real. Yeah. And they still they manage to get a lot of information into a single page.
There is enough information.
You have a playable game here.
On that single page to sit down with your friends. You can actually, do some world building for your session 0 and just get into it after that. There's, like I say, you read through it. Okay, 3 minutes, you're done. You roll some dice, you build the character, you're off and running.
And that's it. That's all. Nice and simple.
So World of Dungeons is a fantasy RPG. That's the best setting because there's no
identified setting, but we're talking like high fantasy. We're talking like Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings,
sorcery. Yeah,
exactly. Like this is Dungeons and Dragons at its core kind of thing.
We are into a 2d6 system, my personal favorite.
Here we are. We've landed on your weapon of choice.
Yeah. So 2d6, everything is rolled. You take your 2 6-sided die, you roll them. If you hit with this system, if you roll a 6 or less, it is considered a failure. Mm-hmm. If it's a 7 to 9, it's a partial success. So you succeed, but not in the way you had hoped. Right. You do get the job done. 10 or more is a success. You do what you set out to do. And on a 12, it is a crit. And there's something extra always happens when you go to do your skill check.
Yeah, you get a little extra something, right? Little
just
bonus.
To make it fun. Yeah.
I mean, when you crit, you should be rewarded. That's kind of the concept
exactly, here. Because it's pretty hard to roll.
It's
2
difficult.
6s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's not an easy task. So.
Now I will say with skill checks on your character, if you have an applicable skill, and we'll get into that when we build our character, you cannot fail a skill check. That means you are proficient in a skill, and that is enough for you to not screw it up.
Right.
You will always succeed at this skill.
Maybe it just takes you a while.
Maybe not quite as well as, if you had critted or something, but you will never fail that roll.
Someone trained in lock picking knows how to pick a lock. It's just how fast they can do it or how much damage they do.
Exactly. You will always be able to pick that lock. The GM has an option to roll the die of fate.
Nice.
And this is where chaos takes the reins and tells you what happens. So if the GM's ever stuck on things like, oh, what's the weather like today? You roll a d6. High, it's favorable. Low, it's not favorable. So favorable is a nice sunny day. Or if they're trying to trudge through hidden, try and hide, maybe it becomes foggy and it's harder to track them. Stuff like that. Something that is beneficial and something that is detrimental.
Right.
This also does like NPC attitudes, wandering monster encounters, other stuff like that.
These would be all the moments when you're like, I'm not sure what happens next.
Exactly.
You let fate decide.
Yes.
That's what this is here for, right?
Yes. And this little thing right here, this takes a lot of the rules out of this game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like, can I pick the lock? Roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, and it sets it up. And you have to, I think in order to make these micro light games, in order to make them work, I think that's what you need to do. You really have to cut deep to the bone, and eliminate a lot of the crunchy stuff to make it functional.
You have to have, this is what's called an oracle in TTRPGs, and this specific oracles are typically used for solo play, but it doesn't have to be. It's a GM tool to help kind of suss out what's going to be happening, how it's going to come along. Magic in World of Dungeons is done by summoning spirits, demons, or elementals to cast your spells for you.
Right.
So the wizard is the only class that can cast spells.
Makes sense.
And there are no spells listed.
I saw that and I was like, this is interesting, because there's as many spells as you want there to be.
Sorry, there are 3 spells listed.
Right.
One is candle light or something. One is decipher and something else, I think. And there's no descriptions for these spells.
Yeah, they're your cantrips: candle, shadow, and throw voice.
There we go. Those ones. Yes. And it's up to the GM and the player playing a wizard to kind of come up with these spells and how they're going to work and balance them to each other.
Yep.
Because that's the only way you can get away with making a one-page RPG. You can't have a list of spells and what they do.
Exactly. Well, and it would stop the flow of the game if you had to stop and be like, hang on, how do I cast this spell again? Because the way that magic works in this game is all wizards cast magic the same way. Mechanically, they're the same. Because it basically says magical attacks do 2d6 plus your level, or 3d6 plus your level's damage if they're especially suited to the situation. So no matter what the magic is, fireball, ice bolt, lightning, whatever, that's what it does.
Yeah, and that is also dependent on when you choose to summon your spirit. You get to pick its domains, two domains for it. And
Correct.
that is basically up to you and the GM to suss out what this is going to be. And if the domain lines up with the thing that you're doing, hey, that works. That works really well, actually. Like the life domain spirit is fighting against the evil domain thing. And hey, they're opposites. So they're both going to be doing a lot of damage
So
to each other, you get
now
to
you
do
3d6 instead of
Ta-da.
2d6. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the simplicity of it. Because it like I said, it takes away a lot of the like, well, would fireball work in this scenario? Well, if I cast that, then it's going to do this and it might affect my partner. No. You point your finger and it does 2d6 plus your level.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Period.
That's what it does, right?
Unless you and the GM had figured out that, hey, it's a fireball, so it does 2d6 to an area. This is, again, also, theater of the mind. This is theater of the mind.
This is theater of the mind. Yeah, I made mention later on in the notes. Like, I don't think you could even. The games aren't suited for anything but theater of the mind.
I don't feel like they could. They could be. This one could be
do,
as a dungeon crawl with grid. But
for sure, you can do anything you want. And it's the last paragraph of the rules that basically say, the rules are yours to bend to your will. You can find it natural to expand, redact, or modify them. As your game goes on, we advise keeping an open mind and lively discussion of possibilities at the table. The idea here is your fun is valid. You do you, boo. Like whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it if the table agrees.
Yes. And actually, John Harper he says, hack this.
Mm-hmm.
Make it into yours. If you like it, do it. You are welcome to even send it back to us or send it out into the world, because this is, it's been made with a Creative Commons license that makes it completely free, completely, like, he gets nothing for this because it is actually free.
Exactly. Like it's
so he can't.
It exists.
It's copyrighted to a point because it's gotta be World of Dungeons is his. That's the only thing.
Yep. The name.
Yeah.
If you want to make Planet of Dungeons, congratulations. You just made a new game. Like
exactly. And there are quite a few hacks of this game already out there.
Sure.
And it's really cool how he's super supportive of the community like that. Anyways, getting back into it.
Yeah.
A little tangent there.
Super interesting. That's it. No more rules.
That is all the rules we have.
Rules. Congratulations, you're all professionals. You can play this game now.
The rest of this page is equipment on one half.
Yep.
And rolling your character descriptions on the other half.
Yeah, equipment and rules. Or equipment and character.
It's so slick and simple. Into character creation.
Yeah, we should talk about character creation.
So character creation, we roll 2d6. You roll that 6 times, and you get your stats. Your stats, we have our basic stats here. Today we have strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
I've heard of these 6 abilities somewhere before. Oh, right.
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons.
They're very similar to a lot of them out there. Yeah, and so we roll our 2d6 on a roll of 6 or lower. Your mod is 0. On a 7 to 9, it is a +1. On a 10 and 11, it is a +2. And on 12, it is a +3. +3 is the actual highest stat you can get because you take those mods, you plug them into your character sheet, and you throw your rolled dice out the window because, hey, we don't play with those here.
We're modifiers only once again.
Yes, I love modifiers only, and I love 2d6 systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
From there, we get to choose our class.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose from a fighter, a thief, a cleric, a wizard, or a ranger.
Yep.
Or, make your own, whatever. It's your game. Who cares?
Your game. And it's really basic to make your own. Choose a class skill and 2 special abilities. Bam. You created a class.
Yeah. And the skills are athletics, awareness, deception, decipher, heal, leadership, lore, stealth, and survival. Those are the only skills you get to choose from.
That's right.
So it is super easy for you to make your own class and just wing it. Now, I will say that each class does have their 2 special abilities of 4.
They get their own thing.
You can choose 2 of 4 abilities. Sorry. And it gives a nice little touch of customization in this extremely small game.
For a game that's going to be single page, it's very, very basic. I envision coming around a table being like, this is what we're going to play. Everyone picks their character, they make it, they write it up, and off we go.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the fighter, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The fighter gets athletics automatically, and you get to choose another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to choose from either skirmish, which is +1 damage, and worn armor counts as one size lighter. Tough, you get +1 armor. Slay, which is +2 melee damage. Or hardy, which is 6 more HP. That's it. That's the only abilities that the fighter gets to choose from, and you only get to choose.
You only get to pick two, and that's just it. Like it's simple.
Yeah.
So my fighter and your fighter could be wildly different from each other.
They can be, because you can have a tanky fighter, or you can have a HP fighter, or you can have like a one that hits hard.
Right.
Very cool. HP is calculated very, very neatly in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a D6, and then you get an extra D6 for every con modifier you have. So if you have a +2 con modifier, you can take 2 more D6.
Right.
You roll those all together out onto the table, and you see what you get. Now, at level 1, you only get to choose 1 dice to bring back, and that is your HP pool.
Right.
So if you roll a 6, you're obviously taking that 6
take the 6
because you got 6 HP. If you happen to roll a 3, 4, 5, I would suggest taking the 5, but that's all. That's you do you.
Depends how bad you want to keep that character. Maybe you want to dump that one, start over.
You only get dice equal to your level.
Yeah.
So what you get to do at level 2 is you get to take 2 of those dice and put them in front of you, and now that is your dice, your hit pool. It's very, very slick little way of doing this.
Yeah, and the Constitution bonus, I think, carries forward in level up, does it not?
It does.
The roll
now
up, you still only get to keep 2 dice.
Yeah.
For your hit pool, but it gives you more of a chance. The higher your con, the better off you are.
Yeah. So, in the XP table and level table, you get 2. At level 2, you get an extra hit dice. At level 4, you get an extra hit dice. At level 6, you get an extra hit dice. At level 8, you get a extra hit dice. Now, that is also on top of, at level 4, you get to increase one of your attribute modifiers by 1. So if you wanted to boost your con up to a +3, hey, you get your con +3. And now you get to roll all the time like that.
But like you said, these cap out at +3. So if you're at 3,
cap out.
When it comes around to level 7 and you're going to get a +1 attribute, you cannot increase past 3. So pick something else.
We buy equipment next. Now,
that's right.
You start off with 60 silver. And there is a handy equipment list that lists out how much things cost. A martial weapon is 30 silver. Light armor is 30 silver. Heavy, like full plate armor, is 60 silver.
Yep.
So you could, get plate armor right off the bat and no weapon and try and punch things, but you're probably not going to have a very fun time.
Totally. No, exactly. And I mean, that's it.
That's it.
Buy your items and get
Character
to going.
done.
I mean, this is obviously going to lay itself well to old school D&D style. You're dungeon crawling, you're searching for treasure, you're moving through. This is,
yes,
you can do anything you want with this game.
You can turn this into a huge campaign if you
do
want.
whatever you want. But I would say, given the ease of use, this would be a really great way to introduce somebody to how Dungeons and Dragons works. This would be a very great way to introduce a campaign at a very light level. And furthermore, this would actually be a really good way to introduce like kids, right?
It would, yeah.
Like you could make a great family game out of this, considering that you're just rolling D6s. So you get the concept of like skill checks. You can get the concept of like building a character and putting them into harm's way and how all these pieces fit together. I think that would be really cool.
It would be. Level ups. XP is awarded according to how much silver you get in looting the dungeon.
Anybody who's played old school D&D games, is immediately going to look at that and be like, I feel at home here.
Yeah.
Because your level ups in original Dungeons and Dragons were tied to your gold, right? That's why you went out adventuring. That's why you wanted treasure. The more treasure you brought home, the more powerful you were, the more you could do with that, the better you were as a character.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Now, that is on top of defeating enemies along with completing quests. But it says in the quote-unquote book here, the page, that it's mainly about the looting. Come on.
It's about the looting. That's what it is. I mean, but when you're talking this kind of old school type of D&D, that's what it was. You and a group of buddies heading down a multi-layered dungeon to see how far you could get without getting taken out, and get back out with the loot sack on your back.
With your backpack full of jangling coins and other paraphernalia.
Back to the pub for a ale before you rest up and do it all over again.
30 long swords are still there. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, very cool. I love it.
And that's it. That's all
the
there
whole
is
game.
to World of Dungeons.
27 minutes ish. and that's the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool. I love the concept of this like micro game, and it doesn't feel that way.
There's a lot of game here to discover.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
It's not even hidden that hard. It's just to get into it and get going on it, and it can be quite deep, I think.
Absolutely. As far as it goes for this game here, like I said, I love the concept of it. Something that I think a lot of these games are going to have an issue with, though, is that because they're so light, there's a lot of work on behalf of the GM. Now, the Die of Fate, that's going to really get you out of a bind. But the DM's got to be somebody who can think on their feet, right? You've got to be able to envision. We're back to old school D&D, right? The OG DMs were the ones that created these like amazing dungeons. Like, you have to run John's dungeon. It's crazy. It killed 20 people in one night. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's what it takes in order to run these games and have people have that amazing time, right? It would be really easy to just do something and play the game and run through it. But in order to make it that kind of give it that epic feel, that's what it would take. This is something, I mean, like I said, in order to get the game quickly out onto the table, but the DM's gonna have to have a lot of work or rely on a whole lot of randomizers, which would kind of lead to a whole nother level of issues. Right?
that becomes kind of clunky after a while then.
And again, this one, it's got to be theater of the mind, right? And I would say anything along this type of game, you're going to get way too crunchy with rules if you start putting in tokens and how far away from a monster you are, right? Like, the way that this game works best is you see a monster at the end of the hall. Okay, I run at it and swing at it with my sword. Okay, roll for attack, right? Like, that isn't
100% how it works.
There isn't like, oh, you can only move 30 feet, so you're gonna have to wait your turn next time, right? But with that being said, that means that these games, they're gonna go by real quick,
very snappy,
and it would be a really good opportunity, I think, for players to kind of get that table talk going as well. I can see using this as an intro to a D&D game, right?
I would say this would be a great intro to tabletop gaming in general. Yeah,
absolutely.
It would be right up there, especially if you have your potential group being fantasy oriented.
Exactly. Absolutely.
This would be 100% my go-to for a starting fantasy party.
Agreed. Yeah.
I got a soft spot for the 2d6 system.
2d6 system.
It's so simple. Everybody has 2d6 laying around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody has a white dice with black pips on it.
Just go grab your Yahtzee kit. Very simple. Go raid Monopoly, you know?
But like, everybody can pick this up and play because everybody knows what that dice looks like, and they can add those together because those are little numbers to add together. Exactly. And like you said, it's great for kids because
this would be a great opportunity for a
small
family
numbers, and there's not a lot of move sets to have to comprehend here, right?
No, real basic. Yeah.
It's very basic.
Mhm.
The only downside that I have with this arcs into a positive is that the GM and the players have to kind of work together on certain things like spells, like traveling, stuff like that, and how things are going to work.
Right.
And it really, like you said, it brings this table talk back into the game instead of, no, everything at the table's in character and what you say has to be
Totally
what you say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It puts it back to the, like, it feels a lot like old school Dungeons and Dragons is what it is.
Yeah. It's like a bunch of guys sitting around a table playing poker, except for it's Dungeons and Dragons-esque.
Exactly. He's got that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it for World of Dungeons. Now don't go anywhere.
No, because we got more.
We got another one.
Yeah.
So why don't we jump into the next game we're going to talk about? Is called Lasers and Feelings. And Finny, who made this game?
None other than one John Harper.
Hold
Once
on.
more.
Are you telling me that this is the same John Harper from World of Dungeons fame?
It is.
Oh my goodness.
100% the same guy.
Same guy makes 2 one-page RPGs, and they couldn't be more different from each other.
It's also free on his website.
I love it. Like it's just so great. This one's literally 1 page. Like
this one's literally
one page.
There's no extra content here. It is a single page.
No character sheet, no name table. 1 page. That's how this game works.
When I saw this one, because I popped onto his website once and I was like, I was searching for small 1-page RPGs.
Right.
And I came across him and I'm like, oh, hey, I know him. He makes Blades in the Dark.
Yeah.
I love that game. Hop into there. Holy cow. He has got a lot of small games like this that are just ready to go. And they're so full of character.
Absolutely.
And I love them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. This one couldn't be any more different.
No, this one's very different.
This one's completely different.
This one, Lasers and Feelings, we are in space.
Yep.
With lasers and spaceships.
And feelings.
And very, very big feelings.
I can see where they came up with it, but I'll let you get through the created by.
We'll also have a link probably to his.
We'll put a link in the Discord
or
in the description.
Yeah, and so Lasers and Feelings was released in 2013 and is inspired by the music from the Doubleclicks. Now, if you haven't heard the Doubleclicks, it's a pair of ladies that do kind of. I don't even know what kind of music it would be.
Like nerdcore?
Yeah, that's a good concept of it. Yeah. But he loves their music so much that he made a game that was inspired by it. It's really cool.
Love it.
In Lasers and Feelings, you are a crew aboard the interstellar scout ship, the Raptor.
Mm-hmm.
Your mission is to explore uncharted regions of space, deal with aliens, both friendly and deadly, and defend the Consortium worlds against space dangers. Captain Darcy has been overcome by strange psychic entity known as something else, leaving you to fend for yourselves while he recovers in a medical pod. That's the intro to the game.
Da na 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 na. Da na 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 na. I mean, this is has to be incredibly inspired by Star Trek, because obviously, like, as we get into it, and you'll start to see the lines being created as we start talking about it. But I mean, if you wanted to play Star Trek, you're like, I want to play an RPG that is basically Star Trek, but I don't want to commit to the actual Star Trek RPG, and I don't really want to commit to Traveler. Well, here you go. It's 1 page.
Yeah, 1 page. And it gets you 90% of the way there.
It's pretty darn close. Yeah. So I mean, we're talking literally 1-page TTRPG. And once again, we're in D6 territory. This is not a 2D6 system though. But it's a funny D6 system because it's
very
kind
funny
of a little
D6
all
system.
over the place.
A multi D6 system?
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, you only use D6s. You only need a D6 to play it. But sometimes you need more than one.
Sometimes you roll 1, sometimes you roll 2, sometimes you roll 3.
Depends on how things happen.
It depends on how the GM is feeling at the moment.
And something that I loved about this game, something that I thought was really, really cool about this game that is unlike the other games that we've checked out, is that this game starts with a scenario. This game starts with Captain Darcy has been overcome. He's out of commission. And now it's up to you to figure out what happens, because something's going to happen and you're going to have to deal with that and get through it as a crew. And that's the game in a nutshell.
You're not just going to float home.
No. I mean, like, what is it that's going to happen? So it's like you have the same starting point in every single game, but the game changes every time.
It can be wildly different from play to play.
It's almost like watching an episode of Star Trek.
It is. And from episode to episode.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's episodic. It changes every single time. Whatever happened in the previous episode maybe or may not matter. And here we go with a new adventure, and off we go again. So very cool concept. I really, really liked that concept of this game. And I was like, of course, that makes it for a 1-page RPG. It's perfect because you don't have to carry any baggage from the previous game.
No, and your setting's already established with the intro.
Mm-hmm.
The placement of like the starting point for the game is done. Like you say, everything's there, and you just roll on a table.
Just away you go.
Figure out what you're doing and go.
So I think it's time for us to create the crew members.
Okay.
So we start by creating our own characters, right?
Yeah, and you are the crew. So you get to choose your style or your race or species.
Mm-hmm.
These can be anywhere from alien, android, dangerous, heroic, hotshot, intrepid, or savvy.
Right.
And anything in between, because who cares?
It's a light game. If you want to be something else,
That's right.
your fun is valid. Off you go.
Your fun is valid. And then we get to choose our roles or our classes.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a doctor, an envoy, an engineer, an explorer, a pilot, a scientist, or a soldier.
Mm-hmm. Nice and simple.
And that's all there is to it. You're not getting a whole bunch of stat blocks coming with you.
No.
Right?
No, it's not like the pilot has something special that the explorer doesn't. The pilot is a pilot. The explorer is an explorer.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no extra details there.
No. Then you're going to choose a number.
Yeah, this
Any
was
number
interesting.
Between 2 and 5.
Yep.
Any number between 2 and 5. Well, any number. I mean, there's 3 numbers between 2 and 5.
That's right. But it does make a difference.
It does make a difference.
And if you're somebody who just doesn't want to make a choice, roll a d6.
You could roll your d6 and ignore the 1 and the 6.
If you roll a 1, it's now a 2. If you roll a 6, it's now a 5. Simple.
So essentially, all it means is the high number means you're better at lasers.
Yep.
Or technology, science, cold rationality, calm, precise action, stuff like that.
Yep.
And a low number means that you're better at feelings. Your intuition's better. You're better diplomatically. You're better at seduction. You're wild and you're passionate action.
Yeah, if you if you're a high number, you're a Vulcan, and if you're a low number, you're a human.
Yeah. Possibly even Klingon.
Possibly even Klingon. Who knows, right?
Who knows?
But and this does make a difference because this number is kind of stitched throughout the game. So this is important to decide what kind of character you're gonna be.
That you have.
This is your stat. That's correct. Yeah. It doesn't affect rolls or anything, but
You're either a laser or a feeling.
correct. Yeah. And then number 4, there was 4 steps to create characters. The
yes,
last
I forgot
step,
the most
important rule required
Yes.
for creating a character.
is you need to give yourself a cool space adventurer name.
That's right.
Like Sparks McGee.
Sparks McGee. I loved the name that they had made. And it's like, it's literally the rule number 4 to creating characters. You have to give your character a cool space adventure name. So I love it. That's fantastic.
Here's a spoiler alert. It does nothing.
It's super important.
It
Look,
does
Captain
nothing.
Kirk is a powerful name. If he was Captain Dave, it just doesn't have that same punch. You know what I'm saying?
It does not have the same pizzazz. No.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Your inventory
Yep.
consists of a Consortium uniform
Yep.
with a built-in vac suit for spacewalks because, hey, we're in space and we like to walks.
It's a way you might need to go outside.
A super sweet space phone camera communicator scanner thing with a universal translator.
That's not summing it up. It literally says that in the rules.
Yeah. So all this
All
goofy
one word.
stuff is basically ripped right from the page.
Right. It literally, word for word. Like, it is literally
Uh,
super sweet space phone camera communicator scanner thing with universal translator.
Yeah. The last thing you have is a variable beam phase pistol, which is usually set to stun.
Right.
Usually.
Not always. But usually.
Not always. Last thing you're going to do is you're going to choose yourself a player goal. Now, this gives you something to flesh out your character with and kind of work your character towards.
Yeah.
It gives them a little bit of something instead of just being a single digit number
Yeah.
on your paper and a cool space name.
It gives your
you-
character sheet a soul. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause-
this is what makes it a character, not just like numbers on the page.
not an NPC.
Yeah.
NPCs don't have goals.
No.
Characters have goals.
Correct. Yeah.
And now there are a few options that you can choose, but you can also make your own.
I mean, you can always
because-
make your own.
Yeah, it's
your character.
Things like become the captain,
Mm-hmm.
prove yourself, find new worlds, or shoot bad guys really good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you kind of
stuff like
make
that.
your own thing here. You're
Yeah,
making a
and-
character. You know, you've got Sparks McGee, and Sparks McGee has longed for the pilot chair his entire life. There's your character goal.
Yeah. Now you gotta try and undermine the actual pilot here. So
I mean, it's a couple quick shots with that phaser. Looks like you're the pilot.
ooh.
That got dark real
Chills.
fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's it. Congratulations, you just
creation.
made a character. Very
Yeah.
simple. Now, something that is super interesting about this game is that we all come to the table, we create our characters. I create my character, Finny creates his character, right? Then when we're done creating our characters, we come together, we introduce our characters. This is my character. He's, this is what they are. And then we have to create our ship.
Yes, you get to create and describe the Raptor.
That's right.
You get to decide what it's good at and what it's not good
Yeah,
at.
the Raptor gets its own character sheet.
It's so cool.
And
so you pick 2 strengths of it. They have a list of things like the hull is strong, or it's a good cargo hull, or it's got great scanners, or it's got super good beam weapons, or something like that. And it can be anything, though. It doesn't have to be any of that. Yeah, but you can also create your own. Like, it's got good transport.
whatever you want. Absolutely. It's got you're now in Firefly, and it's got
it's got smuggling compartments.
Right? Like, you can do whatever you want.
It's got sweet
your
reaver
ship.
disguise.
But the one catch here is that it is not created by one member.
No.
We as a table have to agree. What are the 2 strengths of the Raptor?
On what this ship is going to be, because it is a ship that you crew together.
Correct. Yeah. And if the players are getting stuck here, this is an opportunity for the GM to be like, okay, this is what we're going with. We're moving on. So
Yeah.
But this is all in fun, right? We're creating
Exactly.
a ship. It's fun.
And because that's cool.
It is
It's so cool.
Now, not only is there 2 strengths, But there's a weakness now too.
Well, yeah, there has to be, because
You have to balance.
You got to balance it, and you can't have a super fast cargo ship with smuggling compartments and awesome shields and super great guns and
That's right.
Great scanners to find things. No, you get two, and then you get to pick one weakness, because hey, your super fast cargo runner can't have awesome shields.
Exactly.
Or it can't be able to shoot down the capital ship that's coming after you.
Yeah. I liked the one problem here that they had listed is that there's only one medical pod and Captain Darcy is in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's only one medical pod on the ship and it's currently being used. So that's the problem. So hopefully no one else needs it.
I liked the quirky electronics or something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff. And again, you can create your own here.
Yeah.
These are just some ideas. Very simple.
Yep. I would probably make one that's like the elevator doesn't always go to the floor you want.
Oh, that would be great. And it's got the elevators. You have to hold the handle and sweep the floor, right?
Yeah.
It's like bridge taking you to the garbage.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so fun. So playing this game consists mostly of rolling dice when you do something risky, which these rules micro light games are a lot of RP.
We're storytelling.
We're telling a great, fun story between, a bunch of friends sitting around a table having laughs.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's high level fun.
High level fun. Yeah.
Yeah. The times when you're rolling the dice is when you're like, I'm going to pickpocket that guy. Okay.
Is when something interesting is going to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
And
game
that
moment.
There's a chance of failure.
Correct. Yeah.
Because failure, this guy loves failing forward. John Harper loves to fail forward.
That's right.
He's not a firm believer in you automatically succeed at everything.
That's right. Do. Yes, exactly.
You get your D6, and to start with, that's all you get, unless the GM says, well, you know what, you're prepared for this.
Yep.
Because, sure. So you get an extra D6. Or, hey, you're the pilot. You wanted to maneuver the ship. You're very good at that. So you get to roll 3D6 for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
To try and avoid being shot out of the sky.
For sure. Well, once again, too, we're also, even though you're rolling 3 dice, you're still only using the results from one of them. You're just getting 3 shots at it.
It gives its advantage, basically.
But there is a little bit of, this is kind of where the dice system is interesting, right?
Yes.
Because there are results for 0, 1, 2, and 3 dice.
Oh,
3 dice is the most you can roll, but there are differences in the amount.
So you roll the dice and then compare the number of the dice to the result of that number to the one in the number that you chose in your character creation.
Right. So we're back to that number,
that
the one that was
stat.
Between 2 and 5?
Yes.
Yeah, now we're going to compare.
If you were a laser kind of a PC, a high number, you want to roll under that number.
Correct.
If you're a feelings type of PC, you want to roll over that number.
Correct.
So we're not even roll under or over system. We're a mixed bag of everything in here. That's what I really like this
That's
part
what
of
happens
the
when
system.
you introduce feelings into things.
Yeah,
right?
It does. So if no dice succeed at what you're trying to do, if you're a laser and you roll over your number on all of your dice, none of them succeed. Something goes terribly wrong, and the GM explains how things got worse. Now, this is where the GM might take control of your character for a hot second and be like,
as the pilot, you smashed into an asteroid, right?
Yeah, you were dipping and diving and dodging, and you smucked and clipped a asteroid.
Yep.
Whoops.
Now we have some hull damage.
Exactly.
And
and it's never going to be anything that is going to wreck. Like, it's never game ending, right? Because that's not fun. We want to fail forwards.
Correct. The story matters.
The story always matters. The story is number one.
That's
Dice
right.
rolling is second.
Yeah.
If you roll and one dice succeeds, that means you barely managed to do what you went out to do. Now the GM will include a complication of harm or a cost of some sort to offset what is going to happen. If 2 dice succeed, you did a superb job. Great.
Way to go.
Good job.
You did it.
Yeah. And if 3 dice succeed, you got a crit success, and you get some extra effect from the GM. You get to ask the GM a question, and they will try to answer it truthfully.
Yeah. So basically, if you get 3 dice, so 3 dice gets you some extra effect. GM's going to say, Here you go. This is what you get. But there is also a situation where you roll those dice, and let's say your number that you had was a 4, and you roll a 4. Well, now if you roll that number exactly, you're going to have, as it calls in the game, laser feelings.
Laser feelings.
And now you're going to get special insight on what's going on in the game. So this is the opportunity where you get to ask that GM a question and they'll give you an honest answer, right? And so there's a couple examples that are listed here in the rule set, but it could be something like, who's behind this? Or should I be on the lookout for XYZ? Or what is it that's coming down this way, right? Like, these are opportunities for you to learn a little bit of information and help the course of the story. Meanwhile, from the GM's point of view, this is an opportunity for you to direct the players towards the goal of where it is that you're trying to get to.
You have the ability to also help each other make these skill checks.
Right, yeah.
Now, this will allow the player making the skill check to have an extra die to roll, and possibly succeed better.
Yeah,
right?
You're going out to fix the hull. I'm going to get my vac suit on too, and both of us are going to repair the hull. Now you get an extra one die to make that check.
And that's it for the player stuff.
That's it. That's like, you're playing the game. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Flying through space, having adventures. That's what you're about to do.
That's what I really like about these little games. They're so quick just to pick up and play. Now, the advice for the GM side of stuff is a very small paragraph that says, run the game.
It's not even a quarter of the page. The GM section is like a third of the page, right? And the actual rules themselves is 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they put a nice little picture of the ship in the bottom there. That's how much space they had left over.
I love that ship. That ship is so cool.
It's fantastic. It is.
So basically, it means that you're just helping the players along and helping them find out what they're trying to work towards and what the threat is. And it sets the stage for the players to really figure out. You're giving them breadcrumbs to follow as they're going through here.
Yeah,
we're very story oriented in here.
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely. And something that I thought was really cool about this that included, right? Like, 'cause it's 1 page, everything included. There is a create a space adventure table. So you could make your own thing. You do not need to use this. But you roll 4d6. You roll 1d6 for a threat, 1d6 for what the threat wants to do, 1d6 for the next thing, and then a last d6 which will do something. So, for example, Zorgon the Conqueror wants to build the void crystals, which will rip a hole in reality. There you go.
That's a great adventure.
There's your adventure. Now, the thing is that the characters don't know that, so that's the GM's job. The GM's job is to introduce Zorgon the Conqueror. The GM's job is to identify how one would build the void crystals and what the void crystals do and how they would rip a hole in reality. And so now the players have an understanding about what they need to do, how they need to get there, and how they need to stop Zorgon from doing so.
And once these steps are laid out and the players figure them out, you as the GM are more than welcome to work with your players and
That's
be like,
right.
how could we possibly do this, right?
Yep.
How would you make void crystals?
You're workshopping it live.
Exactly. Because we're not, it's a story game, and everybody's here for fun. We don't want to be bogged down with, you're not, sticking your tongue in the right direction and holding your finger out to the right side to make it work. No, like we're not getting crunchy with the rules here. We're staying pretty loosey goosey, right?
And
exactly.
You always have the ability to call for a roll, right? Like
yes.
the concept of rolling the dice, you always have the ability to be like, okay, we're going to roll the dice, and then let's see where we get from there. And then let that tell the story for you a little bit as well. So
yeah,
it's a really cool concept, but that's it. There's the whole game. That's the whole thing.
Again, so cool. These little games are
I really like this one.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
This would be a great one to pick up and as a primer into a Traveler game or a Starfinder game, something like that.
Yeah.
Because or just to keep playing this episode after episode.
Yeah, like these ones would be great for a board game night, right?
Yeah.
You got a group that can't commit to proper like D&D campaign level play. These are perfect ones to pull out and play for 2, 3, 4 hours.
You could knock out that threat in an hour or
pretty
two.
Easy. Yep.
Yeah.
You could run through it without a little bit of
and
trouble.
Have a lot of fun with it.
That's right. What did you think about this one, Finn?
I like the way that this one's presented. I like the actual layout of the page.
Yes,
slick. Super, super slick. He makes great use of all the space on the page.
Yeah.
He's got the adventure table kind of tucked up beside the title. It's like 2 columns and that's it.
Yeah.
And
blue and black's a good color combo. I dig
yes. Blue and black on a white background.
Yep.
It's beautiful. And it's I really like that it's so simple that you and your friends can get this up and rolling in no time flat. You can I like the adventure table is one of my favorite things of this.
For sure.
Just to be able to roll your dice, bam, there
Here's
it is.
our adventure. We're going. Yep.
Yeah. Let's roll.
Very cool.
What about you?
I mean, like I said it before, like this one, obviously, like it sounds like a lot of fun. I've been getting into Star Trek quite a bit lately. And so this one just really hit me in the right spot. Right. I like the concept that it's essentially Star Trek RPG light. That was really cool. Again, with it being a 1-page TTRPG, you've got 4 dice. That's it. Really easy to pick up and go. And I do think, though, that it'll hold the same issue as the other game, which I believe would be just kind of part of these types of really light games, where there's going to be a lot of effort on the DM, right? Or the GM, sorry. There's going to be a lot of effort on the GM here to come through for the players. If you're an unexperienced GM, I think you're going to struggle with this kind of game because you won't really know how to tell that story from this perspective, right? And so it's going to be those types of things that might trip up this game and make it a little bit harder to run through. And again, with it being a theater of the mind type game too, it requires certain players that have the ability to step into their character's shoes rather than play their character sheets kind of thing, right? So
yeah.
That would be a concern, I think.
I would say that the table has to be able to play this game.
Yeah,
not just
absolutely.
the GM.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Like, I mean, and especially considering you're building the ship, right? Like,
yeah. And that's it for lasers and feelings. Sorry, I will also say I really like the choosing the single,
the one stat ability,
the one stat, and you either roll over it or under it because it's great. That's slick.
It is fantastic. Yeah, great games. I mean, if you're into these type of micro games, both of them completely free. Check the description for the links. Grab them, put them on your table, give them a shot, and let us know if you do run through these games. I'd love to hear kind of what happened in your game.
We would,
because it would be really cool. I think it is time, Finn, for us to jump into The Postpod.
Postpod.
Postpod. I reached out to a professional musician that both of us know and asked him to look at maybe creating a jingle for us for the Postpod. So
that would be
stay
wonderful.
Tuned. If he makes one, I will put it in there. Finn, the Postpod question for today. This is something that is near and dear to my heart, let me tell you.
It's near and dear to all people. Let's be honest.
What do you do when your dice aren't working properly? Like, what is the act? Like, do you have a dice jail? Does the D20 go to dice jail? Like, what do you do when your dice are not working for you properly?
So when I roll physical dice,
yep,
I go through my goodie bag of,
yep,
a plethora of dice sets.
That's right.
And I pick 4 D20s and I set them up on my desk and I roll. And if that one of those doesn't roll very well, I give it 2 shots. If it doesn't roll very good back to back, I put it to the side a little further away from everybody else.
Yep.
And then I roll every other one except for that one.
Right. It has to sit out for a little while.
It has to watch for a while. Yeah. And know that it's a bad dice.
For sure.
I would like to, if and when I ever get a 3D printer, I'm going to make a chair with a little dunce cap to put my dice on.
Absolutely. That would be great. Yeah, it needs to be shamed back into working
into
properly.
Rolling good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then of course next time I'll remember that dice didn't roll very good and I will not pick it.
That's right.
It stays in the bag.
Yeah, they have a track record.
They do. Especially if one rolled really bad and something really bad happened to my character and like it died.
Absolutely.
That dice is like, I love dice, so I will not wreck it. But I might even freeze it in a glass of water. I don't know.
Destruction. Pure destruction. I love it.
What about you? What do you do to your bad dice?
I agree. So I also have a large bag of dice. And I have a very similar process. So what I'll do is I do keep a track record. I look at the dice that I do have and I'm like, that one rolls well for me, that one doesn't, that one does, that one doesn't. And then I'll bring some in from the reserves, right? I've got my very first set of RPG dice in that bag. And it does not roll well for me, but I have a special link to it because it was my first set.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so what I'll do is, especially for D20s, I'll pull the D20s out, right? And I'll pull all the D20s out and I'll be like, okay, these are the 5 that I'm going to pick for this game. And then as I'm rolling, if it rolls a 1 even one time, and this happens a lot, okay? This happens a lot.
DG has a problem.
I have a real problem with rolling ones. But if the dice rolls a 1 at all, that die goes back into the bag and it gets subbed out for another D20. And I won't use that D20 again in that session. Even if I reach in, if I throw another one in there and I reach in and grab the same one, I put it back in until I grab a good D20. I got to go with the fresh
back
ones.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I mean, I'm a very firm believer in a fail me once and you're out kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I have incredibly bad luck with dice as it is, but I have enough D20s now at this point that I can sub them out a good amount of times before I see them again.
Before you have to cycle back through them.
Yeah, I am a firm believer in the track record. That is a thing. I do keep tabs where I'll pull one out. I've got one that's kind of like a white kind of pearly looking dice color. Every time I pull that one out, it is a gorgeous D20, but I throw that thing right back in the bag because I don't think I've ever rolled above a 7 with that D20 ever.
Ouch.
Like every time I've ever rolled that D20, it is always awful. So it is a very pretty D20, but it goes back in the bag every time. And that's it. That's all from us once again for episode 14, the Rules Ultralight episode. Thank you very much, everybody, for downloading this and listening to it. I do appreciate each and every one of you who chooses to do so. if you're interested in getting the word out about our little podcast here, we would love if you could do that for us. It is by far the best way to support our show. And simply all you need to do is just share the episode with a friend. Put us out on Blue Sky, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you share stuff.
Just word of mouth. That's fine too.
Let people know that we are out here and that you enjoy listening to the show. As well, you can always catch us on Twitch and on YouTube. We stream Dungeons and Dragons every single Sunday night on twitch.tv/DGOnline. You can also find that on youtube.com/@DadGamingOnline. It's the same place that you can also find all of our back catalog of the Dungeons and Dragons episodes in case you wanted to get caught up. And Finny, what else do we got?
You can also contact us at mastersofpenandpaper@gmail.com. You can send us an email about some of the stuff that's come across your radar of game-wise, or even just say, hey, this cool thing happened to me on my last session. We would love to hear about your adventures.
Tell us about your TTRPG stories.
Yeah. As well as we have a Discord that there's going to be a link in the description. Come check us out there. That's a great spot for to interact with us. We have a D&D TTRPG channel up and running that's actually gaining a bit of traction now. It's being used a bit more. Other than that,
that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Another episode in the bank, Finn.
Yep.
Episode 15's coming up. 15 is going to be an interesting one. That's just a conversation. It's just going to be you and me. Open mics.
I think we're going to have to do a couple more of these kinds of episodes with these rules micros. Yeah.
Hey, you put these one-pagers in front of me, and I'm all in. Thank you for listening to the episode, and we will catch you on episode 15. Have a great one, everybody.
Thanks, guys.